Again. Yo, so hello. Hello to episode 2 of the Sin Pajas episode. Sorry, that was a bit too loud. I'm gonna try not to yell that much. My guest today, my first ever guest actually in this podcast, is my very, very good old friend. Well, I say old friend, but we've known each other for about 3 years maybe. Yeah, literally, this is gonna be the third year.
No, this will be year number 4.
Oh yeah, this will be year number 4.
Yeah.
I can't count. Yeah, so Callum and I met. Well, first of all, actually, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and talk a bit about who you are, what you are, and yeah. So first of all, cheers. Thank you very much for coming. By the way, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Apologies for the delay in setting this whole thing up. Callum helped me set it up for 2 microphones.
Yeah,
but it's working out.
Well, yeah, it's been about a minute, so let's see if we can't mess this up on the way.
Cool. So, yeah, sir, the floor is yours.
This is weird.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sat here on a show that I can't pronounce the name of. With you and I talk about this all the time. And I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to ignore the fact that there's basically a third chair in the room. But so let's see. Quick intro about me. Where to start? I'm like you. I'm from the north, but basically a different north to you. I grew up in a place called Warrington, which is a huge town where nothing happens. Which is just sandwiched between Liverpool and Manchester, up on the M6.
So the M6, for people who don't know, is it's like so the highways or the motorways are called here. They're like labeled and numbered with like M and the number M for motorway, I assume.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the number of motorway. So the M6 goes from Bristol north way.
No, the M6 goes from like Birmingham to Glasgow.
Oh, Birmingham to Glasgow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it shows how much driving you've done over here. I keep forgetting we've got an international audience.
Continue.
So yeah. Anyway, so I'm at Bristol at the moment. I'm in my 5th year of 5. No more years after this one. Studying basically aerospace engineering. It's a course called engineering design, but essentially it's aerospace engineering. And my 3rd year of my degree, I spent out on a placement year working for an aerospace company as an intern. Before I came here, like I say, I was in Warrington. I had a Catholic education. Although I basically kind of rejected that, more or less from the start. My parents were never devout at all. We never really discussed religion in our house. We only ever went to religious things when either the school mandated it or we thought it would be a good event at the church. So I was only in a Catholic education because my mum thought it was the best education in our area, and she still thinks that, and I still don't know why she thinks that. For instance, she made me get confirmed when I was about 14, and I knew myself to be an atheist when that happened, but I did it anyway because she told me it would look good on my CV.
So when you were 14 years old, you already kind of had an idea, or you were already thinking about the existence or the non-existence of a higher being.
Yeah, I think I was probably thinking about it a lot before then. So I'm the youngest in my family, by about 8 years compared to all my cousins and siblings and stuff. And so I was always surrounded by people a lot older than me. So I got quite used to having conversations with adults about topics that maybe somebody of my age wouldn't necessarily be involved in. So I've always liked talking about this kind of thing. And certainly, so like when I was 10, my older brother died of leukemia. That was kind of the first big. That's one of the first kind of life-defining events that I can think back to, and I can just think back to it being strange, like obviously being very sad as you would expect it to be, but also so he died on a Friday and I was back in school the following Monday, And I remember just hating the fact that it was a thing. People would treat me differently, or people were kind of nervous about it around me.
After like news spread about his death.
Yeah, so everyone knew about it.
Yeah.
And they felt the need to be sensitive with me, and I just wanted to be treated normally. Because from my perspective, this event had been foisted upon me, and okay, I was dealing with it, and it got easy and it got hard. But most of the difficulties around that were kind of at home. And when I go to school, it was like being in a different place, and I wanted to. I would have loved school to be a form of escapism, and so it always frustrated me when. It still does to an extent. Like, what was it the other day? Somebody asked me if I have any siblings, and my flat out question is, I just say no because for the past 13 years I haven't had any siblings, and because it always makes the conversation awkward. And then I had to lie when they say, "Oh, do you ever what do they say? Do you feel jealous of people that do have siblings?"
Oh
And then those questions never ever bother me, but it's always if I then come out with the truth, it puts that person in a really awkward position where they then feel the need to apologise. And they've not done anything wrong, as far as I'm aware. They didn't kill my brother.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that people tend to do. Is like, well, especially in this country, like so many apologetic behavior, so much apologetic behavior for no particular reason.
Yeah, it's odd. It's our manners, isn't it? We've got a big manners culture, and so it's people like to be able to have a nice little kind of like a structure they can walk around with each other where they don't really know each other. So I think you can talk to somebody over here for about 10 minutes and never really exchange any personal information or get to know each other, but be smiling the whole time and talking as if you're very friendly. I've certainly spoken to a few international students that described that experience.
Too polite.
Oh yeah, polite to the because what was politeness? Politeness is just it's just a structured way of speaking, and it's a way that me, if I don't know you, I just keep you at arm's length.
Yeah.
And
mainly to avoid controversy or like hurting the other person's feelings in a way.
Yeah, it's agreed rules of engagement to make sure that when we leave, we're not going to say bad things about each other. That's certainly how I see it, and I can understand. But it has the effect of removing the personality from interactions.
So then after that weekend, everyone was treating you in that way, like a really like handpicking what to talk to you about, and
in some ways, yeah, a lot of the issues it wasn't a huge thing. I moved quite quickly to try and extinguish this effect, by kind of forcing my friends to make jokes about it.
Oh.
I would.
In what way? What do you mean?
Oh, like I would. So I would start by making jokes about it, or when somebody says something, I would or says something that references siblings, I go, "Oh, well, I wouldn't know because I've not got a brother." But I'd say it in a funny way, such that they know I'm joking, and I would encourage them to make fun of me because I don't have a brother.
Kind of like take the awkwardness of it out of the equation.
Yeah, I think humor's I think it's generally the antidote to that kind of thing. I think that's how. What is it? That's the other thing about the culture of you say to people from other cultures, we don't like you if we're being nice to you, and we like you if we're insulting you.
Yes.
And so, I really wanted to regain that the status where my friends were happy to make fun of me, because then we were really seeing each other as the friends that we were, and I wasn't being defined by this thing that had happened. So anyway, that happened. Lots of tears. Really well packed out church when we had the funeral, and we went past the school in the funeral procession, and everyone stood outside very solemnly, and I'm like, I'm in a limo because I was in a limousine, and. Yeah, that was.
Wait, did you actually wave to your
honestly
peers?
I didn't quite put the window down, but I did. I was next to the window, and I could see all my friends, and it's like, you look really miserable, but I'm in a limo.
That's like kind of good angle of viewing it, I guess.
I was 10 years old. It was just pure ignorance. I didn't get slapped, but I got quickly told off and was like, be respectful. And then I got to the church and the service started and I started bawling, which is just odd for me because I never cry in public. It's just not a thing I do. It's a man thing, isn't it? But I did then, and it was
especially in Latin
unstoppable.
America, you're not expected to show that much emotion.
Mm.
I think more in the past. Nowadays, it's well, I mean, the taboo is getting a bit more broken down.
Mm. Yeah. So that happened anyway, and I suppose if it started a theme, it just started a theme of things that I didn't talk about, because it's an awkward thing to bring up. It's not a thing I ever felt awkward about, but I just noticed the effect of me just announcing this thing had happened. I'm like, oh, I remember being in the street that I lived on, and one of our neighbours just about 3 weeks after the event, was like, oh, you just drove past in a car. Oh, hi, Callum, how's it going? I was like, oh, my brother died a couple of weeks ago, otherwise I'm all right.
Just like, oh god, no.
And so she was just silent, and I kind of ran off, and she just didn't know because I put her in a terrible.
Yeah, how do you
position.
react to that? Oh, did I even tell you? I was once serving a customer in the restaurant, the Sri Lankan restaurant I used to work at, and I went up to her and I'm like, "Oh, here you go. Here's your bill. How was your food? Everything's okay." And then she turns at me, looks at me in the eyes, and says like, "Oh, I sorry I can't tip, but a really good friend of mine killed himself tonight." And there's just silence,
That's
and I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry to hear that."
Mm.
And then just silence.
Yeah. So that's kind of the function of manners, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it removes any of that. If at any given time somebody's having an awful time, and if you ask them how they're doing, either they can give you the manners, straightforward. Okay, this is the standard answer, or they can give you the honest answer.
Yeah.
And if you're in a society where people are just going around giving honest answers, you're gonna get those awkward moments.
Well, the thing is, I just didn't expect it. Like, as soon as she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't tip," I was about to say, "Oh, it's fine. Like, just don't worry about it."
Yeah,
Like,
this is the UK. People don't tip here.
yeah, exactly. And like, literally, don't worry about it. But then she added that part, which then was like, okay, wow, what do I say? Like, I'm sorry. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, not cool, but yeah.
So even then I was there was nothing really like parents and family, and I was in a Catholic school, so the teachers as well, they'd all try and talk about she was looking down on us and all, and that was never ever anything I took any comfort in. It was always something that even then I thought maybe it's nice that would be it would be nice if that were the case, but some part of me couldn't buy it, and I don't know why. I was never I wasn't at that stage going online, googling atheists to try and convince me of things. It's just it was an intuition that never really clicked with me.
So was it the reason that your brother had died from leukemia in the first place, and when you were 14 years old, that you started to question the reality of a god? What made you start thinking about atheism in the first place?
This is the strange thing for me. As far as I'm concerned, atheism is the base condition. No one is born with a religion, and everyone's taught a religion. And for whatever reason, when I was, luckily, as far as I'm concerned, the school that I went to, they didn't really push it down your throats. We were reasonably multicultural, so we had people from different faiths all the time, so they were never very strident about making the Catholic point on something. Which might be a distinction between, say, my upbringing and yours. It was very much, I look back on it now, and it's weird that we would stand up and say prayers every day. But as far as I was concerned, I was just standing up and doing something the teacher told me to do.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
And so, there's all sorts of strange behaviours that can just become normality, and that was one of them. We did that, and we'd go to mass all the time. And I loved getting communion; it was great. But that's just, I was very good at it, and I was very well behaved in the church.
Which when you were really good at it?
Well,
I just get a piece of bread.
There was just people who always used to forget what they had to say, and the body of Christ, amen. Turn around and go and do your thing. I don't know. Maybe I was just brighter than some of the people that kept forgetting how to hold their hands and how to accept a cracker. But I never bought it, and I don't know. Part of me thinks that the people for whom religion really lands, they must have some reinforcement at home. And the thing was, I just had none of it. And so, Catholicism was just a thing my teachers told me.
So you never really practiced it.
No, we never. I never practiced it. We learned a lot about it. I
Yeah.
saw we watched the funeral of Pope John Paul II in school. We watched all of it, and it went on for hours. It
Oh
was
my
really
god, that was
boring.
really long.
Yeah. And then we had a little
I
thing.
saw him live.
Did you?
Yeah, he came to Guatemala. I can't remember the year, and I was a little kid. I was so excited. It was like a huge day.
Yeah, I heard he was a good guy.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. He used to be a bomb maker in Poland for the World War II.
So it sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, well, not in that, not just for that reason, but his story is quite impressive. But no, yeah, no, I saw him and I was like, oh my god. Yeah. But continue.
Well, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that was Stuart dying was probably the first time I was maybe properly conscious of the fact that there's a whole element to this grieving process that a load of people are taking part in, and it's not landing for me at all. I certainly had um, the more dramatic experience, at a church service than a crematorium. I had the more dramatic experience in the church, but I felt like I just got everything out of the system before we went to the crematorium, and then it was kind of fine.
Like just cry it all out in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so with the awkwardness around bringing that up in day-to-day life, that kind of just started. Well, I don't know if it started, but it was a big part of a process of me just not talking about things. And knock-on effects of that are like obviously my parents became very very overprotective, and I could notice I was very cognizant of their sensitivity to me being in any danger at all, and so I'd start to kind of shield them from things. And if anything worried them, it's always been my way to try and sort it myself, and then go, "Mum, just so you know, it's fine, but this has happened." Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I remember very early on, like, being very aware that all the ambitions that my parents had from their offspring were now completely focused on me. My brother and I couldn't share that load. It had to, if anything good was going to come of our bloodline, it was all going to be through me.
So all that pressure, kind of like those expectations, fall onto you.
Well, yeah.
Or at least is that how it felt like?
Yeah, I don't know if it felt like pressure. Maybe it did. It just mainly it aligned me towards their cause, or so insofar as they could articulate something that they wanted for me, I could. I found it quite easy to just say, "Oh, that's my plan." And so things like going to university, which I probably would have done anyway because I'm fairly academic. Um, they wanted that for me, so there was more or less no question about that, and I was quite comfortable doing that. But it extended to things like my sexuality. So it was probably around the same time that I discovered I was gay, and I just didn't really. I thought, well, I'm just not going to deal with that. Like probably earlier than that because I was an early developer. So I was probably the first in my year to have a mustache. That's why I'm not very tall because early developers aren't very tall.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of things that you decide because it's not happening to any of your classmates. You're just not going to talk about. And so
and I assume all your other classmates were still talking about or starting to talk about girls and stuff.
Yeah, and so along with hiding things about my brother, the main thing I wanted was to not be different. I hated that the brother thing made me different. I hated that the sexuality thing made me different. And all I wanted to do was to fit in. And I was aware that the people like my family were, they have a fairy tale view of how my life's going to develop going forward. Oh, he's going to go to university. He's going to get a really good degree. He's going to have a great job. He's going to be earning the same money as his dad at 35, and he's going to reproduce, and we're going to have grandkids and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, and I became very wedded to that as an idea, and so I just thought, well, I'll make me fit that. And so I spent basically all of my teens trying to live that life, and it wasn't difficult, I just became very good at hiding what I really think and steering conversations.
Plus, yeah, you're a really good conversationalist.
Well, that may just be out of necessity. That I could just, like I said, I could just take a conversation away from an area of discomfort, and that was a necessity. And so, yeah, so that kind of carried on, and I could keep being comfortable in that kind of regime until I came to university. And then first set of exams came out. I had a falling out with a friend, and I had just this massive pit of loneliness. And then and so I came out to my parents and a couple of friends very close to me. But then that was about it. And I still, I'm still at the point now where I feel like I don't like my sexuality, and so if I could change it, I probably would. I just think my life would be easier if I was straight. So,
But it also comes hand in hand to like you're a really smart guy, and you do a lot of research, and you read a lot of like I don't know if you read a lot of scientific papers and stuff.
mm,
Um,
I wouldn't say I do, but I'll take the
well,
compliment anyway.
well, we've had a lot of conversations just about gayness itself and homosexuality,
Yeah.
and so I don't know about in my perspective at least, I was raised super 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 against it, like
Mm,
kind of like to the extent that I was a bit disgusted about the idea of it.
yeah.
It goes hand in hand with like Latin American or specifically Guatemalan culture. When
Mm,
you're like, you say, "Oh, marica," which is like, "Oh, you faggot,"
mm,
and that's like pretty much incorporated in the language already,
yeah.
with a tiny little girly hint you might have.
Ah, yeah.
Um, but I would also add maybe I don't know this. So we've talked about this, and
Mm,
I've shared with you kind of like do you remember, so we went to Croatia once and we went sailing,
mm.
which is when I first heard all about this.
It was about 15 months ago.
Yes,
Mm,
and I shared with you my like concerns with homosexuality.
mm.
So just for the record, by the way, I'm not a homophobic, etc., because you know how people tend to get in the
Yeah,
internet.
I'm chained to the floor here. I don't know. He's brought me here under duress.
I'm forcing him to speak.
Yeah.
Um, so so now I've done a lot of research and I've read a lot of things, and like there tends to be like a gay gene within some animals too. But I don't know what. So what do you think about just that in general, like just homosexuality and your discomfort with it?
Um, I think it's all fairly understandable, as in the discomfort is understandable.
Yeah.
Like I often say, like in the circumstance of say a changing room, um, I would rather people just assume I'm straight
Mm.
most of the time because I think it's easier on everyone if they're not. If I'm not thinking that they think I'm looking at them, and if they're not worried that I'm looking at them, and all that kind of stuff, it's a bit of awkwardness that's easier. That's why we separate male and female
Yeah.
bathrooms. I think it's because of
To avoid it.
that flat assumption. And so I think a lot of homophobia is based on that. Um,
Definitely.
and so it's just men being completely freaked out by receiving interest from other men. Um,
Just the idea of it make some men uncomfortable.
yeah, really, and there are some people who have theories that women are more comfortable kind of um, playing in the middle of the different sexualities, and men live more on the extremes.
Hmm.
I don't know whether that's the case. Um, with regard to its presence in nature, I think it's true that there are about maybe there are probably 300 different species in which homosexuality is being exhibited. It definitely shows up elsewhere in the natural world. Um, with regard to there being a gene, I don't know if there is a particular gene. It certainly seems to be genetically determined,
Hmm.
i.e., because I wrote a paper on this last year.
Yeah.
Or not on this, but it mentioned this. There's an AI now that can look at people's faces. It's analysed, say, 50,000 faces, and now if you show it somebody's face, um, it can predict their sexuality
Oh.
with like a 75% accuracy.
Is that like based on micro expressions or
Not
like
based on
or like
expression, because it's a photograph of a face. If you give it's something like if you give it one face, it's 75% accuracy. And if you give it five faces of the same person, it's like 85% accuracy.
that's insane.
Yeah, so what that means, and so it's looking at things like nose length and the ratio of that to your forehead and the size of your chin and your jawline and stuff. And so basically, what it's saying is, the structure of your face is definitely genetically determined. And this proves fairly empirically because it's not a human, it's just a machine that is, drawing correlations, just connecting dots that appear to be connected. Um, Whatever is causing the differences in the faces, which we assume to be genetics and thus unalterable, also seems to have this strong influence upon sexuality.
So does it look at does it look at particular faces and particular aspects of some faces, and it already knows the data behind those faces, knowing that they are tend to homosexuality,
So
and then correlates those faces to other faces that have similar aspects?
kind of. The nature of machine learning is that you don't quite know how it works. It's always a bit of a black box that you put something in and something pops out. But the way they train it is they will
Poops it
have
out.
fed this, say, like these 50,000 faces, and all it will have got is the image, maybe the gender of the person, and um and then their sexuality. It would have been given those data points for all these different examples, and it would have just learned themes that appear in this massive data set, and then you just bring a new one in that's external to the data set, and it compares that to what it's learned about how faces and foreheads and eye distances, how they seem to correlate um, with sexuality, and it makes a guess based on what it thinks it's learned, and 85% of the time it's right. That's about all I know. So I'm not comfortable saying there's a gay gene,
Right.
partly because I think there are probably what's the issue that nowadays it's a big mess, isn't there? You've got gender, you've got sexuality, you've got sexual expression, which is kind of a no. I think that's just an extension of how
So
you see your gender.
something we can definitely agree on is that it's weird.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah.
Um,
But just the fact that you try to talk about it also with some people, you can also get shunned pretty quickly.
I think the only position to hold in this argument is one of uncertainty.
Yes.
Anyone who's certain about this is just either not being open-minded or is lying to people about what they think they know.
You can definitely tend to have maybe an idea of it if you base it on, I don't know, some sort of factual evidence, but you've got to be open-minded. Always open to the possibility of counter arguments.
Well, yeah, this is how we've always conducted our conversation. It's strong views, weakly held, and so we'll try on some ridiculous position and then see if the other can knock it down. So my maybe ridiculous position, but the thing I've come to on gender and sexuality is that there are things that are correlated. So generally, people with female bits will tend to identify as female and will tend to fancy men.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Well, biology.
vice versa. Men will tend to have male bits, and people who identify as men will tend to have male bits and will tend to fancy women.
So the way I speak about this with my Polish friend, I have one of my Polish friends, is that the argument he gives is just like man, and he goes, well,
Yeah.
I'm putting like my finger through my hand in a loop, kind of like imitating
Yes.
the penis going into the vagina.
Oh my god, I can't believe you said
Oh
the
my
words.
god, words.
Yeah.
So, which makes sense.
It's how we got here.
Yes.
Um,
Reproduction.
Yes, in most cases, yeah. Well, no,
In
no,
most
no.
cases.
In all cases, yes. Well, not in my case actually,
Oh, were you in vitro?
because I'm an IVF baby. I'm a little test tube baby. But that's
another conversation.
in most cases.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really alter the point.
Okay.
And so I don't. People. Let's get out of the way the people who say that things like homosexuality is unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
You can shoot that down with the 300 examples of homosexuality in nature, and only the one example of homophobia we get in nature, which is in human beings.
So I don't know. For some people who have no idea about this, so loads of people who listen to this podcast have no clue.
Yeah.
About what we're talking about. Maybe not loads of people. That might be a huge assumption from my part. Oh,
well,
I think the batteries run out.
I think the cards run out or something.
I don't know. Well, yeah, the batteries run out.
Okay.
I'll change it in a bit.
Okay.
So if you I don't know, develop more on that subject. I forgot what my point was though.
Yeah, were you asking about homosexuality in general, or how that relates to homophobia, or nature?
Oh, nature. So I don't know. So these 300 plus examples.
Yeah.
Can you say one of them at least? So I know in monkeys, and I don't know if it's in what type of monkey it is.
Oh, I couldn't actually list for you the examples. But all I know is that there are many of them, and you see it between. I think I knew a girl at school she had two horses. Both of them were stallions, and one of them used to mount each other. One of them used to mount the other on a regular basis. So it's definitely a strange phenomenon, but it definitely happens, and no one really knows why. And certainly, I look at myself and
I'm just changing the camera battery for
I certainly can't see a reason for my own existence, i.e., I'm a self-extinguishing phenomenon. If we were all left to our own devices, I probably wouldn't end up reproducing, and that still might be the case. But I can square that with um, my lack of a god, such that I don't really need. I don't feel the need to have an ultimate purpose, and I also have the idea that the ultimate purpose of just reproducing um, is a bit of a shallow one, and it's a bit animalistic compared to everything else we can unite our our efforts around. Um, it's definitely a strange idea, though. Yeah, it's all odd.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of sense.
No one can hear you.
Huh?
No one can hear you.
Well, they can hear me now.
Yeah.
I think. I hope. I don't know. I'll just. By the way, this podcast is a bit unorganized, but we're getting there. Baby steps. We're getting there.
So the way I see it is, there are behaviours and there are preferences.
Ducks.
What?
I mean, there's a photo of ducks.
That's nice, dear.
Huh?
What, as in?
I mean, homosexuality in animals.
Oh, okay. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Ducks are weird anyway, and I'm quite happy to.
Oh, do ducks partake in rape, don't they?
Well, they do.
Don't male ducks rape female ducks?
Yes, ducks can be quite violent.
And aren't their penises like screws?
Yes.
Supposed to cause loads of pain to the female too.
Well, it's not. It's less to. I don't know if it is to cause pain. I think it's more to gain grip to work your way in.
Yeah.
But female ducks have an opposing thread, if you like, in their receiving part. So the idea is that they can try to avoid the unwanted advances of a male duck by just making it hard, and they can. And there are different birds that have different little dead ends that the males can end up going down and not end up reproducing with, simply because the female doesn't allow it. There's all sorts. I mean, the best birds are the ones with the really bright feathers.
Penguins.
Well, they are weird. They're very weird.
Why do you think? What? I don't know much about penguins.
No, but penguins are just odd, aren't they? They're just strange. They're just weird animals.
They're cute.
But yeah, no, the best birds are probably you see the really beautiful birds.
Yeah.
Like gorgeous
peacocks.
feathers.
Well, male
peacocks, but also like hummingbirds and all the really exotic birds you get in the jungles and stuff.
Uh-huh.
They a lot of them, the males don't have penises, and they just have to
rub against each other.
Yeah, exactly. But what it means is that whenever a mating happens between those two, it has to be 100% consensual. There's no way for the male to forcibly inseminate the female.
That's fascinating. So they literally have to partake in what's the word for it? The
mating rituals.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why, if you think about evolution, that's why they're beautiful.
Well, humans used to
ducks aren't
rape
beautiful.
each other in order to reproduce back, but way back in our ancestral, really the start of our own species.
Yeah, so generally anything with a penis that can forcibly inseminate something doesn't need to woo its other half. It doesn't need to be charming, and the other half doesn't need to agree with the whole thing. Generally, just the biggest brute used to win in all forms of nature. Whereas where you see beauty exhibited in nature, that's where it's always been the choice of the female to let the male mate with her. So he's always had to do lots of work to kind of win her over. He's always had to be very good looking, and that's how you've evolved these really elaborate kind of displays and mating rituals and feathers and stuff. It's all for those birds. It's based off preference. Or that's certainly how lots of evolutionary biologists see it. There's still a lot that isn't settled in the world of evolution. except for the fact that it happens.
It's definitely all super, super, super. I don't
Mm.
know. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic that I don't get the chance to talk about with a lot of people, to be honest.
Yeah, it's well, not many people learn about it. Well, there's just too many things to learn about. I
Mm.
think I've always been quite jealous of basically everybody, especially people doing arts degrees.
Or you get to learn a bit of everything.
Yeah, I would love to just spend the rest of my life at university, have more money than a student,
Yes.
but do all the courses
That would
because
be ideal.
generally most topics have something of interest in
Oh yeah, definitely.
them.
Hmm. So I want to go back to So then you were living this kind of life of hiding what your true self was, or what at least what you assumed or you thought what your true self was, without being completely sure what that was in the first place.
Also, uh, and this story constantly changes. The current version I'm working with is
what
I.
do what do you mean? Do you change your story every time you tell it to someone?
Well, no, as in I'm still working my way out of it,
Oh
and
right.
so part of it is just doing an autopsy on however you've got to where you are, and at the moment this is the current version of the autopsy, which
Okay.
is I basically got myself to a point where I would happily compromise on lots and lots of things about me, um, in order to fit in or be accepted.
Yeah.
Because generally at base I'm a fairly nervous, insecure, and neurotic individual.
You
Um,
don't apparent like one though. You're really good at hiding it.
yeah, I think that's more out of necessity. And certainly, I think for most men it's always hard to open up, but I've always
Hmm.
really struggled to open up. And like I just had things that I would never open up about that I've since decided, all right, fine, um, I will. So the things I struggle with at the moment are simply knowing knowing why I do the things I do. Am I doing something because I just want to be accepted by a particular person, or am I doing it because I really like to? Because I've aligned myself for so long to be kind of completely focused on acceptance of others, such that I've learned to like whatever it is that other people like to do, which is fine, and I don't feel resentful about that. It doesn't make sense to be resentful, but it's very strange for me to say I know myself, because I don't think I do.
Well, I don't think anyone really does know themselves.
Or yeah, maybe this is what people do, and when they do that really cliched thing of going away and go, I'm going to discover
I'm gonna go
myself.
find myself,
Um,
and they go take like a year. What is it like a gap year?
well, they all yeah, gap year,
A gap year.
and they
I'll
all
go
go to
gap year to
Southeast Asia.
Thailand and Cambodia,
Yeah, exactly. That's
and
a
then
great
they come
sketch.
back to the UK with their hippie trousers
And
and
the baggy
elephants.
trousers, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It
baggy,
seems like
colorful
they all come to
trousers.
Bristol. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
all
This
come.
the waviness of Bristol. Everyone tends to dress up here like they were in fucking
That's,
Thailand or something.
that must be just the cycle. Everyone in Bristol applies to Cambridge, gets rejected, goes on a
So
gap
that's
year.
something I hear a lot, a lot. Like so, Bristol is kind of like the place with the safe haven for rejected students from really high quality universities.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
where did you apply to in the
I
first
applied to
place?
Cambridge.
Oh,
So
uh-huh.
I applied to King's College, Cambridge, and I applied because King's College is the one you always get on the postcards. So it's
Um,
the prototypical picture of Cambridge.
uh-huh.
I applied to that college, and they said no.
So was this your second
Shockingly.
choice?
Um,
So the way you apply to university in the UK is it's through this system called UCAS. I mean, that's the main one, I think.
the University and College Admissions Service.
Yes. And you put choice one, choice two, and choice three, I think, or five, up to five. Is it?
It's up to 5, yeah.
Up to five choices. So if you don't have enough scores from high school, which they call A levels here,
Yeah.
yes, or kind of post high school.
No, they're called, we call them A levels, yeah.
Yeah, so A levels here is high school,
Mm.
and based on your grades in high school or slash A levels, you get accepted to a certain quality of education or university.
Yes, but the thing about Cambridge, because I got A levels that would have got me into they more than meet the Cambridge standards. But Cambridge also do interviews. Oxford are the same. It turns out my course at Bristol, I've managed to pick the only course in Bristol, or one of them, that does interviews. I think medicine probably also does them. And I
But
was
Bristol is one of the best universities for aerospace.
Oh, it was. I think certainly this year for general engineering, which is kind of what I'm doing. They're the best in the country.
Oh
Um,
wow,
but
that's good.
but
It worked
yes,
out.
it's a funny one. When you're playing around the top 10, 15 universities, they're all pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, and certainly some Bristol, like Cambridge and Oxford, and a few, and there's a group of 23 universities that form the Russell Group,
Yeah, I've heard
and
that
these
before.
are very highly research-oriented universities. Um, and so what it means is you can generally go and see a professor, and they are one of the best people in their field at whatever they're studying. But I don't know whether I think that's a good thing or a bad thing, because what it also means is that a lot of the people who are there are not completely focused on teaching. Whereas if you go to one of the lower end universities, they're not doing loads of research, and so the academics teaching you are a lot more
Oh,
focused on the idea of really getting you to understand something.
so loads of teachers that teach you in these type of universities are doing their own PhDs,
Yeah,
but and they're also humans, like their own.
and their
It's
own postdoctorate stuff and all sorts. Yeah,
oh god, it's incredible to see how many teachers also go through their own shit, and sometimes that can be projected in some sort of like power over students. Like I've had some friends who have really really bad problems with their personal tutors that they will get almost no. Oh, actually,
Oh,
we're
excuse me.
drinking.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're drinking Cointreau, which apparently I became like a little bitch fan of it after a little course I did about it. It was actually really tasty.
It's nice. I like it,
Hmm.
and it goes really well with London Pride, obviously.
Oh, definitely. It's just the amount of. So I think students tend to forget also that their teachers and like some professors are people too.
Mm.
Like they probably are also thinking, oh, what I'm gonna have for lunch, or oh fuck, I need to go. I need to swear a bit less. Um,
I've not done it at all, and I
have you
don't
not?
expect to. No,
Oh damn!
Like,
You can do it. People who
um,
swear more tend to be more honest.
I will off camera.
Okay. Um, yeah, just loads of professors are also thinking about they just want to go home. They just want to see their kids, or they also have some sort of mental problems.
Hmm.
I'm not saying all of them. I've had some fantastic professors throughout my life,
Hmm.
but I've also had some pretty shit ones.
Yeah, and also some of the best ones may be some of the ones who are struggling the most,
Oh yeah, that can happen
because they're
too.
probably trying the hardest. Um,
That's a good way of
it
putting it. Yeah,
it's odd. I mean, if we ever get into free world,
yeah.
you'll know that I'm always poised to just forgive people. For almost it's quite a Christian approach, I think. But it's just generally
Well, if you tend to open up first or forgive first, the most rational response or the most human response will be vice versa. Like people will tend to open themselves to and tend to forgive.
yeah, well, certainly the position I've always, or not always, but the position I've taken a lot doesn't really depend on how the other person behaves. Um, Generally, if you pay attention to things, I notice that I tend to have a nicer time if I work on the operating assumption that everybody's trying their hardest, that everyone's just generally doing their best, and if someone's doing something really badly, it's because they can't do any better. Um,
Or they've got some sort of mental impediment, or as with impediment, I mean like some sort of mental struggle that doesn't allow them to do their best.
well, yeah, but that would then just redefine what their best is.
Hmm.
They're doing their best in this
Context.
impaired state.
Oh, state. Okay.
Um, and so, although so this was so I pre-listened to episode 1
Oh
before I
yeah.
came here, and one of the things that I noticed
So
about
episode one of this podcast.
and so one of the things that I noticed there was somewhat of an inconsistency, certainly a place where there was just a blinding inconsistency in like about 5 minutes apart. Two of the things you said, I thought, and
Which was
well, so I'm gonna get, and it's also a place where we diverge, and it's about self acceptance. And
okay.
so early on, you talk about how people who are not okay
Hmm.
shouldn't just accept that they're not okay and go, "This is a great thing." Or just someone accept me for me, okay? I don't wash in the morning, and I don't want to brush my teeth, and I don't want to say hello to people, and I don't want to wear clothes, and you should all be okay with that. And you would say, well, no, no, no. if you're an asshole, you should be told you're an asshole, and you should know it, and it's not so you can feel bad about it, so that you can reorganize your life around to stop being one, and then life will be better for you. And then later on, you talk about how you realize the importance of having some level of self-affection, of
Yes.
being kind to yourself, and about which isn't, and it's not pure acceptance, but it's certainly making allowances, and I think the ideal line lies somewhere down the middle of the two of those,
Definitely.
doesn't it? So it's the reason I have the opposing intuition is because
So what is the opposing intuition?
so the opposing intuition for me is that my general state. I think you started off by saying when you were very young, you really liked yourself. And certainly once there's some of the things that make my biography a bit somewhat interesting. Once they happened, I've never really been the biggest fan of myself. I've not. So I've never been a fan of who I am. I've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort, probably wasted, trying to deny who I am. And so I've never had the intuition of I'm quite happy with who I am. I've always been trying to compromise and change who that is. And so basically, we just have different starting positions, or we certainly did in that case. But probably
we're different. We've got different brains, different biologies, everything.
Yeah, we do. We're very different, you and I. So we are both brought up in a Catholic education, but we came out of it with different ideas about the world. We probably.
Well, I used to be super into it though. Like I was so devoted to church and so devoted to Christianity. I used to be a church boy.
Yeah, I never was. I kind of fancied it. I thought it looked like a good idea.
Do you know that once I was telling I was telling Georgie, that I was a church boy once. And the first thing she did was she turned around to me. She was like, "Oh, so did you also get molested?" I laughed. I didn't take it the wrong way.
13 years of Catholic education, I wasn't molested once, and I'm insulted.
Same. You insulted? I'm not insulted. I'm quite grateful I didn't get molested.
No.
So one thing I also want to say about this like molesting thing is the Catholic Church tends to get really attacked.
Do you want a hand with that spade? Go on. Go on.
It also really tends to get attacked a lot about this. So there was. I'm not defending obviously molesting, especially from people who devote themselves to God and religion. But the Catholic Church tends to get way more attacked because of the investigation that happens and everything. But that doesn't say it doesn't happen with loads of other religions too. Especially with gurus. Like Sam Harris talks about this a lot. I don't know if you've listened to those lessons.
I think I have, but
on gurus.
No, it's definitely not exclusive to the Catholic Church.
Definitely.
Just some of the most advanced societies also happen to have a lot of Christian representation in them.
Yeah.
And so Christianity gets a lot of attention, and it gets attention for the good things and for the bad things, and
especially
recently,
the bad things.
A lot recently for the bad things.
Yeah.
And molestation is one of them, and that's because you talk about sexuality, and celibacy is weird. Celibacy is just strange, and that was another reason that is just that made me reject Catholicism. Is that priests, nuns, monks, all that celibacy?
Go out there and get your dick wet.
Well, it's kind of
This is not a PG.
Clearly not
podcast, by the way. I'm not trying it to be. I'm not trying. I'm just being me, man.
You're just being you. You're just doing you.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a more sexually dysfunctional group of people to try to educate the world on sexual politics.
Whoa.
As in
big words.
Yeah, it's just they go, we don't do any of this, but we're going to tell you how you should do it.
So do you know the first time I ever encountered that idea was when I went to the World Youth Day in Poland, to Krakow. That was 2015, 16, 14, 20 something. I know you weren't. And we were in the bus with my sister and one of my really good friends called Rudy. Shout out to Rudy. And yeah, you don't know him. You might know them. He might come visit at some point. Eventually. But we were in this bus going from one city to another city, and this British Catholic. Actually, it was a British dude,
Mm.
and we were just talking about like, oh yeah, we're all congregating together, all the Catholic youths of the world, and we're just speaking about it, like just small talk. And then I remember this line really, really clearly of him saying, "Oh yeah, we're the biggest group of young, sexually frustrated people meeting together."
Mm.
And I was just like, whoa,
Oh right. Well, yeah. Well, it's a bit more of a meme over here, and it's
a
just
meme, yeah.
it's just general. Well, so is that just a thing that never
But I've
really?
never heard that phrase though.
Oh, so you just never heard that perspective on it?
Never, ever, ever.
Because the idea, I think Stephen Fry said this best, is that, and he likened sex to food, which was, you know, there are people who have had food disorders
Yeah.
are like the morbidly obese or the anorexic.
Mm. But those food disorders come from mental disorders though.
Yes, but the idea is that they don't have a healthy or a positive relationship with food.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing that we take about culinary taste, you can apply to erotic behavior as well. And so he thinks most people in a liberal kind of permissive society get a healthy amount of sex. It's a fun thing. It can be a bit dark because it's a bit primal, and we like to kind of divorce ourselves from our animalistic side. And it's always a weird thing to try, to see people with the clothes off, because we are just monkeys wearing clothes. But so the dysfunctional people are the sex addicted people, and the people who religiously never get any, because they just
Well, they still ache for it to some extent. Like I can't speak for everyone though.
yeah.
I'm assuming they're human, hence they also tend to get attracted to some other person.
Well, presumably, yeah, and then so I think this is how a lot of the molestation happens. Is you get people in this position where they're denying these feelings all the time, and they're also in this position of responsibility, and they're left alone with these young boys. And
But it must come also from some sort of mental derangement because not all
no,
priests do it. There are really good people within the Catholic Church, like fantastic people though.
certainly some I assume are good people, as someone might say. But just different people have different sex drives, and
Yes.
different people have different levels of willpower.
Yes.
And again, it's all free will. I'm not trying to steer us to free will, but everything.
It kind of looks like it's going that
It's
way.
just everything can come back to free will, and they don't have control. Either they're going to be a child molester, or they're not, and they don't.
Okay,
really have-
so we can either take the path of do you want to define what free will is, or do you want to keep telling your like story/biography?
I feel like is there a hole in my biography?
Well, not like a whole, but just like after that like period of 14 years old, it's kind of like till you're where you're now.
Oh, I can't really put my finger on it. It doesn't feel like it's finished yet. I feel like I can tie a bow on it after.
So maybe I could help you out in that way. So
Yeah.
maybe you could talk about the time we met and what your position in life was during that time.
Well, so when did we meet? Oh, so we were.
And probably also mention the Croatian trip.
Oh, so we met in the Ernu, which you mentioned in the previous episode.
Yeah, so that's the University Royal Naval Unit.
Yeah. And it was quite interesting because meeting you, I don't remember a particular first time we met, but you seemed then like you do now, and which I know would seem odd to you, because I think you had a completely different view on the world back then.
Yes, definitely.
And either you were good at hiding, well, you've always been a social butterfly from my perspective, and you've always been very extroverted, and you've got on well with people, really easily. And so I never really learned the culture shock that you were going through at the time until a lot further down the line when we really got talking. And just one of the times we got talking ended up being we talked a bunch of times, but it ended up being Croatia last year. And
I think that was the most honest talk we had one-to-one.
Yeah, it was. And it was we were sat alone on a boat. And
the sky was beautiful, by the way. Like you could see the whole stars and the Milky Way and everything. Maybe not the Milky Way, but
you probably could. Yeah,
probably. But yeah, it was fascinating.
And we'd had a bit of a bad day because the flotilla got kicked off an island. But we had plenty of this, so we were okay.
So there was a group of assholes. So first of all, context. Okay, so we went to this sailing trip in Croatia, with the Royal Naval Unit, but we went as a group, not with the unit itself. Sorry, we were attached to the sailing society. Yeah,
Yes.
and we just all bought our tickets individually, but we managed to get enough people to get a boat for us. Do you call it a boat or a ship?
I call it a boat or a yacht.
A yacht.
Basically, the university was putting on like 10 boats to go and hire some in Croatia, and a bunch of us from the navy all got together, and we had just a navy boat within that flotilla.
Yes.
And then we went to a place called Var in Croatia, and some of the guys on the other boats went full on Brits abroad, and
so Brits abroad is an expression to kind of
bad behaviour from British people,
and it is kind of a trend for British people. I'm not labeling all British people though, but it is kind of a trend and also like a generalization by Europeans or an observation by Europeans to view British tourists as just dickheads.
But not to view for British tourists to behave as dickheads.
To behave, yeah, okay, to behave as dickheads.
Yeah, but whatever. I think we deserve a lot of the kind of presuppositions that people have about
which is insane because the perspective that I think most people on the other side of the world where I come from Brits is that you're super highly educated, like you drink tea till it's tea time, and like super well mannered. Yeah, so the chav or the bad behavior culture is not seen at all on the other side of the world at all.
Well, yeah. So what is that? Well, so it's a view that the Europeans have on us.
Yes.
And it's because it's cheap to get to Europe. If you want to go on a holiday and just be somewhere warm and get smashed, Europe's the place to go.
For a really cheap price.
And Europe's where you end up. So you never go end up in Guatemala and then go and get bleak faced. So that doesn't surprise me.
So in this trip, what happened was a group of people from Bristol.
Yeah.
They got super drunk and they were like, I don't know, they were doing all sorts of stuff. They were throwing, I don't know if they broke some chairs, and they also hopped into a bouncy castle thing.
They broke into a trampoline.
Trampoline, yeah.
They had loads of nets around it. They climbed to the top, and then they tore their way out.
Oh my god, yeah. But they also they murdered the mayor.
They mooned the mayor.
They mooned the mayor.
They stole his niece's trike. Stuff like that. Anyway, so he got up in the morning and went, get lost. So everyone was on a bit of a downer.
We got banned off the island.
Yeah, so we had to go somewhere else. So yeah, the whole flotilla was on a bit of a downer. So we were just getting these down. And I was on a bit of a downer at the same time because I'd been told today that I'd failed my resit exam. Yes, it was. I had resit exams and I hadn't passed them, and I was told that I couldn't come back to university. And I was in a foreign country. I was not having a nice time. I just needed to talk to somebody, and I'd been meaning to talk to you about about lots of things. I was very aware of just a bunch of things I hadn't been open about. I needed to feel comfortable.
What made you think you could feel comfortable talking to me though? Because we weren't super close. But we after some deployments we really talked and we started getting a bit closer.
Yeah, so we went on deployment together and we just became a bit of a double act. So we got reasonably close in that we were perceived and we saw each other as a kind of pally in this and we'd bounce off each other and we had a reasonably similar taste and sense of humour and stuff.
And music.
Yes. And so I don't know how it really happened, but certainly on that trip I was closest to you. And I felt I knew you well enough. And I knew at that point that you'd moved enough away from your strong religious position that...
Oh yeah, because by the time we went to Croatia, I was already in a remission state from my really bad depressive state.
Yes. Oh yeah, of course. And you were talking about it a lot, actually.
I was really open. I was starting to be open about it. I was practicing to be open about it. Open about it.
I suppose the other thing is when I used to steer conversations, I could easily get away from something personal by taking a conversation down a philosophical rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
And so religion was always a favourite one of mine. So I think probably by that point I had a pretty good idea of how certain you were attached to Catholic ideals, and
Was I still
either way,
defending it by then? Was I still defending it?
to a degree, yeah. I think we had a chat that night, and
We definitely disagreed a lot.
yeah, and we still do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at some point I moved you to atheist, and you've since moved off that point again. But I'll get you back. And yeah, so that night I was certainly, we talked enough, and I think I basically talked about everything without talking about any of the really important stuff. That I thought, okay, I could fill in the gaps of my bio that I've been hiding from you, and you'd feel more gratified that it now all made sense. And also, so it was a little leap of faith, but basically I felt, well, it was a big leap of faith. It always is for me to talk about this kind of stuff. But I just felt comfortable enough, and I needed to as well. I also felt pushed. If I hadn't had that bad day, yeah, as in the situation that I was in pushed me over the edge to do that. And if I hadn't had that bad day, we wouldn't be where we are now. We wouldn't have had the conversation. Which is on me. It's probably to my shame, but it's
No. It was.
I don't hold it against myself because I don't have free will. No.
It was a very useful conversation. Like, it really, really opened you up to me seeing who the real Callum was and what the real Callum's struggles were. Like, literally, what you were going through that day, that week specifically, that we were off sailing and having a nice time.
Yeah.
You were really struggling.
Yeah. Oh, and I was still hiding it.
And you were fantastically.
Yeah.
Like, not even a hint of it.
Yeah. It's odd, and so I don't like doing it, and kind of more and more I've become really enamored, attached to the idea that vulnerability and honesty is just a really important thing to me.
It should be for everyone. It should be for everyone.
Oh yeah, just I know because I've been absolutely on the other side of that, and I would just tie myself up in knots to the point where I didn't recognize myself.
Like knots.
And I still, and it's a weird one for me. So it's always small iffy things. That what was it? I've realized recently that stopped working, by the way. I've realized recently that unless life has forced me to deal with something, I simply wouldn't do it. For instance, people who were in my school who were very, very camp, they would be forced by circumstance to deal with the fact of their sexuality. Either come out and accept it or just not. Because people would talk, kids would be very, I can't think of the word now, but
Closed?
No, kids would be very tactless and just bring it up and challenge them. Because kids can be very prepared to make someone feel embarrassed.
Oh God, yeah.
But what that would do is it would force them to deal with that as an issue. Whereas in my position, most people will look at me and they will hear me speak, and unless you really pay attention, you're not gonna guess that I'm not straight. And the fact that I could easily get away with that, it meant that I just dug myself deeper into a lie because my circumstances didn't force me out of it. I wasn't pushed out of it. And the same thing is kind of talking to you. I wouldn't have spoken to you unless I felt in a really awful situation and I felt I needed to. And I needed to feel not alone in that situation. Because I think that day I called my parents and they were disappointed, and half my time was spent consoling them, which is understandable. It just wasn't very. It didn't do much for me, and I needed somebody else to share in that who didn't feel invested in the outcome or didn't really care about whether or not I had a degree. They just cared about being mates with me.
That was also the day. That was also quite an intense day for me because that was also the day I made a phone call to Guatemala to speak to my brother to tell them that I had made the decision of not being his godparent.
Oh,
Godfather,
yeah.
Godfather for his confirmation.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it was a really intense, tough talk. I remember being at the stern of the boat. Stern is
back.
Oh, then no,
You're at the bow.
at the bow. I need to get those terms right. At the bow of the boat, at the front of the boat, having this really, really intense conversation with my little brother, and this huge sense of guilt of just I am not Catholic, so I really can't be a hypocrite, and I can't be a godfather because godfather is someone who's supposed to lead you and educate you in the Catholic faith.
Mm.
So in that same day, I was also really, really like open just to listening and also speaking and interacting with that side of us that we tend to hide.
Yeah. And yeah, all I needed, certainly that evening, I just needed you to sit and listen for a bit. And you would just let me sit and monologue.
I remember you using the word monologue.
Yeah, so because what, as has always been the case with me, I needed to, well, not always, but as long as I've been being open with people on an individual basis, I've needed to be able to talk to somebody and then not have them freak out. Um, and yeah, and the more it happens, and the more people don't freak out, the more fine it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been hard. It's just I've always somewhere in the back of my head there's somebody screaming at me, "Don't say anything. They're gonna run a mile," and no one's done that yet. But it could still happen. But it's
Well, I mean, people who might tend to do that to run a mile after you open up yourself in that way, there's something not right with them.
um, perhaps I again low to me.
Like you cannot you
Anyone
cannot
who's
listen to a story that honest and that meaningful and just ignore it if there's not something okay if there's something wrong with you.
no.
No, what I'm trying to say, you cannot ignore something that deep and
Hmm.
just treat it like it's nothing if you're not okay.
Um,
At least if you're not okay dealing with that sort of stuff, because
I
it
suppose,
can be
yeah,
really tough for anyone to listen to this type of stuff though.
I suppose, yeah. But I could never blame someone. Just different people
No,
are,
I'm not
yeah,
blaming people. It's
well, yeah,
just
different people are prepared to hear different
yes.
things, aren't they?
Well, different people go through different struggles.
Mm. Yeah, so I can always accept that whenever I say something, it just might not be an opportune moment for someone to hear that. But I don't know, it's funny. I've been lucky so far, and part of me becoming more and more comfortable with talking about this kind of thing is just me trusting that in the majority of cases, people are not going to freak out, and that people don't care. Because I still wind myself up when when an older relative asks me, "Oh, have you got a girlfriend yet?" And again, it's just I've always hated the idea
Have
that
you
it's,
ever thought about just being like, oh no, actually no, no, I got with the guy last week. Oh
God no,
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 no.
no, absolutely not. I'm not there yet because I still don't have any. I don't have any pride related to it. I still probably have a fairly significant level of shame
So
associated with it.
I also want to talk. Now that you've just mentioned that, I was just thinking. So there's two different type of gay people. There's those that go out and be like, oh my god, gay pride, and they like fucking go and on the parades,
Yeah,
which is I'm not shitting on them. I
yeah.
mean, they've got the liberty to express themselves however the fuck they want, as long as they respect other human beings
Yeah.
just for the fact of being human.
Mm.
Because what happened in Guatemala and some Latin American countries in these gay pride marches is that they completely trashed out churches and they
Mm.
vandalized Christian institutions,
Yeah.
which just comes back to the basic fact of just respect private property or respect other people's property.
Mm.
But there's also the side of, and there's also the nice people who just go and participate in the march, and they just really, really just want to feel the pride and the freedom of expressing who they really feel they are.
Mm.
But there's also the side of people, the other side of gay people who are like just practice their homosexuality like any other person practice their own sexuality in private
Mm. Well, yeah.
with their partner.
And there's a whole other bunch of people who are pretending to be straight and getting their kicks, and you just kind of on the side. Like
Definitely.
I know people who I know to not be straight, who
Pretend.
absolutely intend to continue to pretend, and I don't necessarily know that they're wrong. I don't know. I don't know whether life's easier if you keep it all hidden up, all cooped up inside and hidden. I just got the feeling that it wouldn't be, because I've heard too many stories of men in their 50s with a wife and kids who suddenly turn.
Dave Chappelle mentioned that in his Netflix comedy special.
Mhm.
He was like, yeah, so all the goal, all the, I can't, I'm butchering this, by the way. All the gay folks in the audiences with their wives, and then like, loads of people laugh.
I'm sure, yeah, well, yeah, and a really awkward, really
Well,
awkward
that was a
laugh.
funny joke.
Yeah, so those people definitely exist. But again, I think a lot of the people that appear on the marches are the people who have had to very early on publicly own their sexuality, because um, again, it's the characteristics that are typically male and typically female, and so I have the typically male characteristics of my equipment downstairs, and also my general demeanor is mostly masculine. I'm not against a show tune every now and then, but generally, I will read to most people as typically male and masculine, and thus straight. Whereas a lot of the ones
And frustrate.
and thus straight.
Oh, and thus straight.
Yes. Whereas a lot of the ones who appear on the marches will, are male. They've got the equipment. They identify as a man. But one of the things is that they come across, and their general disposition is somewhat more effeminate, and so they just end up owning that. They call themselves fabulous, and a lot of them call themselves queens. And some of them dress up as women, and there are some straight men who dress up as women. So it's all a big mushy mess.
Yes.
Um,
It's difficult to understand. So people who tend to really criticize the other side and to really be like, "Oh, you don't fucking understand us, and you were fucking homophobic." No, no. It's in some cases, maybe in the most cases, people just simply don't understand, and it's a very tricky topic.
So I think, yeah, a big effect of religion is it makes people shut up about sex. It makes people not talk about it, and I think it fosters a bit of,
Why is there a God that gives a shit about what happens in the bedroom?
well, yeah. Um, also, it's partly that, but it's all, I think it attaches the shame to sex in a lot of ways. But what it means is that, so people the really camp men who end up on the who can't hide their sexuality, they have to learn to own it, because every little look they give, every time they speak, they are announcing that. Um, or certainly society sees that in them. So it's a reality of their existence that they have to live that out. And so it might, I can quite understand someone like that wanting to own it with pride, and rather than um, having their sexuality as a badge adhered to them by everybody else, they're going to try and define it themselves. And so, as you get people going on pride marches, becoming their ultimate selves, becoming their most fabulous form in the star spangled, multicolored everything, that's not me. So I'd probably appeal a bit more to somebody who is a bit more sexually conservative and religious, and would prefer that people didn't talk about what went on in the bedroom.
But you also seem more rational though than most of these people. It might be because of my own bias, which I'm not sure what that bias is in the first place. But I do respect everyone in whatever way they think.
Yeah.
But you do seem to be more introspective and more rational than most people who just go out chanting what they think they believe in.
Um.
Because you analyze yourself a bit more.
Well, I just tear myself to pieces, but I
Which is a way of analyzing yourself.
yeah, but I don't think there are people as um there are people like me, i.e., people who appear straight, and you have to tell people you have to tell everyone else that you're gay. There are people like that who go on marches. Um, so I think it's just a completely separate issue. The people who are most strident, and so I think that's just a different thing you're aiming at. I don't think you have an issue with pride. Maybe not. Maybe in a country as conservative as what I've heard of Guatemala, I can both understand the people in the church being disgusted by everything that goes on at Pride. I can also understand everyone on the Pride March having a lot of ill will towards the church because it has stigmatized them so heavily. And so I can understand both. Who do these people think they are coming in here and smashing up our church? Can't they just keep it in their bedroom and let the rest of us get on with our lives?
Mm-hmm.
I can also understand the people on the march going, oh my god, these people have been the bane of my life.
They've been oppressing us
with their imaginary friend, making us feel like second-class citizens. Screw those guys.
I can understand that perspective too.
I'm gonna go and take a dump in the middle of their pews or whatever. Yeah, all that kind of crap. So I can understand both groups, and I don't condone either of them. And I don't know why. If you're talking about me being somewhat exceptional here, but I don't know why most people aren't more even-handed, except for the fact that just by chance they don't. Again, they can't choose. You can't choose any perspective other than the one that you have. I'm wrong about loads of things. And
everyone is wrong about loads of things.
For some reason, I'm just curious about it. That's the main. We discussed this recently. Most people have strong views about most things, but lots of people are not curious about where they're wrong. Which is maybe where you and I are a bit different. We want to hear that we're wrong, and I can't wait to hear that I'm wrong.
But that takes practice, though. We've definitely practiced that through our conversations that we've had. I mean, no one can get to that point without consciously trying to. Unless you're genuinely curious.
I think I'm a naturally curious person. And I just think, as far as I'm concerned, enough about my existence was confusing that I was happy that I felt certain about nothing.
Okay.
Which may also just be why I rejected religion.
So that might be because I've grown up in such a way that, well, I've been taught to be 100% sure about what I believe is true. And that everything I know is absolutely true, and then there's nothing wrong about it. So that might be my own bringing up that thinks that in order to be curious about the world, you've got to some sort of practice it.
Yeah, I mean,
which definitely doesn't apply to everyone.
No,
but so in my own case, I've had to practice it. Like I've had to make a conscious effort to question stuff.
Yeah.
And to become interested in stuff.
Yes, well, so that's where you and I come from different places.
Yeah.
And certainly the past 10 years, I've just reached the point where I like not having a position on something. Because that's another thing that's the case when we talk is everything's on the table.
Yeah.
And
which why I think these follow-up podcasts after this one with you will be amazing.
Well, I hope so.
Maybe not amazing. It's just really enjoyable.
Maybe we can just do an autopsy on whatever on earth went down here.
Yeah, definitely.
But so everything's on the table, and it's more interesting to not be certain about anything.
I'm just hoping I won't get cancelled on like YouTube or anything.
Luckily, I'm hoping a podcast with me will just fade into insignificance very quickly.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
But yeah, it's all sorts, isn't it? Like we've recently become interested in the idea of in the meditation, and so and the idea of the self not existing. I really like that idea. I'd never considered it before, and I love how you can start to you can experience that as a concept.
Yeah,
and I don't just all sorts of flat assumptions that people have all the time. I always like questioning them. So free will is one of them. The self's one of them. A god is one of them.
But once you start questioning all these things to people, you actually find out that most people really don't have a genuine answer to them, or they haven't questioned it a lot to get to the point of really, really getting to the root of it.
Yeah, I think a big source of my insecurity, my general feeling of insecurity, is that I know I don't know most of these things, and so I'm very.
But you don't pretend you do, though.
I don't know.
Most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people who, when challenged on these ideas, react in an aggressive way or a defensive way. it's because they've built a lot on the certainty of the thing that you're questioning.
Yeah.
And so they feel like they've got a lot riding on it. Now I'm in the comfortable position that anyone can question basically anything with me, because
I get that idea with you.
because I don't have much about me riding on any strong opinions. Well, I just don't. Everything's on the table. But what it means is I move around all the time, and it's really hard to know how to act. I'm sometimes quite jealous of the pious and the conservative and the very devout because I think that they can feel from what they've studied from their scripture that they know how to act and how to move in the world, and they can make every move and feel self assured in what they're doing, and there are benefits to that. Whereas certainly when I approach atheism, I know that it's a struggle. It's not just a cop out saying, "Oh, there's nothing. I don't need to think about any of that stuff." I think to say you're an atheist means the work starts there.
Well, well, we've talked about this a lot of times, and I thought nowadays you would tend to be more of an agnostic rather than an atheist. At least like an atheist agnostic atheist.
I am, and I always have been.
Yeah.
This is what I want to clean up with you, or one of the things I want to. There's lots I want to, but okay. Agnosticism or non-agnosticism is a statement about what you know. Okay, so everybody is agnostic
if you're intellectually honest.
Yeah, if they're intellectually honest enough to admit that we don't know what happens after we die, and we don't know if there's a big white guy or a big brown guy or anyone with a beard and a
Big
cloud
brown guy.
who's going to point at you and judge you.
It's the guy from the adverts from what's that deodorant spray?
Which one?
The one, the black dude.
Oh, the Old Spice guy.
Old Spice, yeah.
I think that's a shower gel, not deodorant, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's American anyway.
Well, yeah.
So it doesn't land.
He's a black guy.
Yes.
Oh no, it's Morgan Freeman.
It's not Morgan Freeman.
Oh, okay.
He's in a towel. Morgan Freeman couldn't go on TV in a towel.
That's true.
Right. Anyway, so it's only a slight, side road. I'm gonna try and get us out of this ditch and back on track. Okay. And so agnosticism is about what you know. So anybody who's intellectually honest is agnostic. So I'm agnostic. You're definitely agnostic because we both admit we don't know. I'm an agnostic atheist because atheism or theism. So atheism can just, atheism is any one religion, and then there's deism. It's just you believe in a deity. You believe in some force somewhere that is moving all the chess pieces. That is simply a statement of your working assumption. And so my working assumption is that there isn't a guy up there. I'm happy to, take revision on this at any time because I'm agnostic. But at the moment, I see no evidence, and so that's why I am where I am.
So the way I differ from that is that I'm an agnostic theist. So I do acknowledge also that I don't know what the hell happens after death.
Yeah.
And that I don't claim to know what happens. But I have the belief or maybe the idea that there is definitely something. Or at least there is definitely some sort of higher being or some sort of energy that connects us all as human beings.
Yeah.
And that it can't be it.
Okay.
But without labeling it as a god.
Yeah. I think that makes you an agnostic deist.
Deist. So what's the difference between deist and theist?
The way I understand it is that theist means you...
so theist is like there might be some sort of god.
No, so deist is there's going to be a deity, some kind of being that is determining everything.
Like a conscious deity.
Yeah, whereas theist means you adhere to a theology, and generally a theist will attach themselves to a given religion, which I don't think you do anymore.
No.
So,
okay.
So I think it's reasonably fair for you to call yourself a deist.
So agnostic deist.
Yeah.
Do you think that terminology would suit me better if I would have to label myself?
Yes. Given what you just said, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm always up for questioning your idea that you just...
I love it when you do
You just think there's someone there. Um,
Well, I don't know if there's someone though, but
mm,
I don't know. Like, for example, have you seen all the things with aliens happening lately?
no,
Oh, really? Have you not?
no, and I
Oh
don't think you
man.
have. I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't think you've seen anything with aliens.
Okay, so we won't get into that conversation, but we will definitely will.
Fine,
Actually,
okay,
no. Do you think there's life outside of Earth?
almost certainly, yeah.
Okay. Then we can leave it there and then have another conversation at some point about
It's
that.
just a statistical certainty.
Mm.
It's another reason why it's not really surprising. It's another reason you don't need a god to make life. You know,
Yeah.
if people go, oh, the conditions had to be. I talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, and they,
Okay, so wait. So one thing Callum loves to do that I've always found hilarious and super entertaining is he will go out of his way, get out of his way,
go out of my way.
go out of his way to approach the Jehovah's Witnesses that are on the road with their signs that say like, when did life start or was life created?
Mm,
And he will go into different churches
mm.
and challenge people on their beliefs.
Well, yeah, I'm not striding. I genuinely, I'm more just asking them questions. I don't quite come at them with the counter arguments, but I
But just
just,
the fact that you take the time to do that is quite
what
something.
because part of me can't believe these people exist. Um,
Oh,
I just don't know what the world is like from inside their head, so I'm properly curious most of the
mm.
time. And they're always lovely people. They
Oh
really are,
yeah.
and they're not stupid by any means. I think they're wrong, obviously. Um, but and the Jehovah's Witnesses, they come across as very open.
I remember
I
you were saying that they have the exact same stands
oh yeah,
in different parts of the world.
I saw them in California, and they've got the same ones in Bristol. I think I've seen them in South Africa, but they have stands that um they just hand pamphlets out from, and one of them is was life created, and
Yes, I've seen
one of the
those.
arguments that, and well, the great thing is they give you one of these, and I tell them I'm an atheist, and they go, oh, that's great because they want to convert me.
Mm.
Um, but they say, well, take this away and give it a read, and you can come back and you can discuss what you think. They want feedback, and I'm like, yes. And so, but one of the things they say is they talk about what's basically known as the Goldilocks principle.
The
I
Goldilocks principle.
yeah, which is I they go, isn't it funny that we live on a planet that just happens to be the right distance from the sun to be perfect to support our life, and just happens to have a rotation that's the length of a day, and just happens to have a tilt that causes the seasons to happen, and just happens to be comprised mostly of water, which we need to stay alive, and they and you can list about probably 100 things that are special about planet Earth
Yes.
that make it really good.
Yeah.
Um, a, there are a million billion billion planets in the observable
Probably more than
universe.
that.
Something like probably more than that, but something like that. I if you just roll the dice on all the 200 things they're giving me the idea on, there's gonna be a few Earths that crop up, and certainly nowadays we're discovering there's a load of
What's the
Earth.
planet that's really similar to Earth and what's it called?
Oh, I did know it's something six, I think, but I don't know. But it's around a neighboring star or a
Yeah.
nearby star. Nearby, it's a few 100,000 light years away.
Yes.
Um,
It's like super similar.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Mars is composed a lot of water as well. People are thinking that might be habitable, and
So you have that counter argument.
So there's that, and there's also just there's an extent to which we're just adapted to Earth. There's the argument about the guy um, who walks through the forest and picks up a pair of glasses and goes, "Oh, look at these! These must have been made by God because they're perfectly made to just fit onto my ears." And and it's like, well, no, you've got the whole. Oh no, what is it? I've got ears. They're in the perfect place to support these glasses. Isn't it
Mm.
great that I have ears to do that? And it's well, no, it's backwards. The glasses were made to fit your ears.
Okay.
And it's stuff like that. So it's not that the Earth was made perfectly for humans.
Uh-huh.
It's that the Earth was made and humans evolved and they made themselves. Evolution made them to fit the Earth. So from my perspective, they've just got it backwards.
Interesting.
So I like talking to them about all that kind of stuff, and they tell me they believe everything in the Bible. Which I'm going to read the Bible at some point before I start. Yeah, I've not read it cover to cover.
Can I tell what one of your bucket list things is to do with the Bible or not?
Go on, you can, yes, go on.
Okay, so one of Callum's bucket list things to do with one page of the Bible is, oh, this is gonna piss off a lot of people from back home, by the way.
Is it?
Oh, guaranteed, not from your home, from
I
my
don't know
home.
if I'll actually do this. It's just
I'd be willing to do it. Maybe.
You've got more to lose with these people than
I've got way more to lose.
Yeah.
So Callum wants to smoke a joint using one of the Bible pages as a paper.
I think it has to happen at some point. Billy Connolly did it, and I thought that's a great idea.
Okay, that's it. You continue.
But I suppose one of the things about the you get from theists a lot that I'd like to counter is the idea that lots of people hold on to religion as a source of knowing good from bad, good from evil,
Mm-hmm.
and I genuinely think that atheism, to a degree, and atheism is an empty concept. It is vacuous. It is just. It's not a belief system. It's a lack of one. But being in that state, I think makes me more moral because because I'm less certain about things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that
Mhm.
there is an afterlife after this one where everything gets sorted out. I don't know there's a St. Peter that's going to read a thing and decide which way you're going to go. I think that this is all we have, or I can only assume that this is all we have because I don't know of anything else.
So,
So-
in Catholicism, I don't know. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but in Catholicism, there's the hell. There's this intermediate space called the purgatory
Purgatory.
and heaven. So like, in that sense, like the Saint Peter thing, that seems too black and white.
Well, yes, but it's not even that. It's more, if there's something wrong in the world,
Yeah.
it falls to us to sort it out.
Yeah.
Because it's not all going to come out in the wash after we
No.
die. It's, as far as I'm concerned, because there's no evidence for anything else. If somebody has a terrible life and then they die, they've just had a terrible life. They're not going to go and be rewarded for their struggles.
What do you think about reincarnation?
I don't
Like
really have an
Buddhism.
opinion on it. It's surely it's possible, but
Well, maybe that's a whole other topic.
I mean, it definitely is. What would reincarnation be? So we're claiming that people die and then are reborn, but
Based
forget everyone
on
they
what life they had.
Yeah, but they forget who they were before.
Yeah.
And so,
But you have certain subconscious knowledge about who you were before.
some people certainly claim to, and there are documentaries or there are certainly YouTube videos about people who apparently have a really scary knowledge about a previous life of someone.
Wasn't this kid this really small kid that used to know loads of different airlines and types of airplanes?
He thought he was a fighter pilot, or he claimed to have been a fighter pilot in a previous life.
Yeah, but he really surprisingly knew loads of facts about fighter planes and planes.
Yeah, and that's definitely odd. And I can't explain that, but I also just don't know how credible it is. Like it's always just a what's more likely, isn't it? What's more likely that the kid is reincarnated, or that everyone around him is just massively gullible?
I'm gonna change the battery of the camera again.
So I mean that's Occam's razor. It's the same. It's the same thing about the virgin birth, isn't it? What's more likely that God reaches down and conceives a child in Mary immaculately, or that some Jewish girl should lie about having sex. It's much more likely that she lies, and so it sounds very reductionist and dismissive, but that's mostly where a lot of the kind of rejection of the religious claims comes from. So no, it's weird. It's odd, but no. So I think I can obtain a level of morality from atheism that basically says that if anything's wrong, it falls to we as people to sort it out. And also, I just don't assume that I have the answer because I don't assume I have any answers. And I think making the world right falls in the hard work of struggling through this continuously. Politically, the big swings from left to right. I think the answer is always some compromise down the center. and it's always ill-defined. And good politics is just beating that stuff out over time, infinitely. So it's just something you kind of approximate to, but you never actually reach. And so, yeah, I think atheists can be moral and should be moral because they don't think they know the answer, and they take responsibility because they don't think anybody else will. Generally.
Cool.
So that's what I sometimes say to a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. Well, it's been an hour and 35 minutes.
Damn.
Damn.
That kind of flew.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't hit on half of our greatest hits.
Oh God, no! But it's at least we did it.
We
finally.
did. Thank God.
Finally, it was done. This is Callum, everybody.
I was Callum.
He was Callum.
Oh.
And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
like really, really, really thank you. Thank you for opening up the way you did. Like most people don't have the courage to do that. And to really, really, really talk the way you did.
I had the Dutch courage.
Oh,
the Dutch gave me that.
Definitely helps a bit. But I can guarantee that this conversation will definitely help a lot of people out there. And I hope it's been to some level useful.
It's been enjoyable.
Oh yeah, I always have a great time when I talk.
We have a nice time chatting. So if nothing else.
Yes.
If anybody made it to this far in, I'm sorry. If you got anything good out of it, then thank you. But no, I've had a great time. It was wonderful to be your inaugural guest.
Yes, yeah. Cool. So I will. Oh yeah, thank you everybody. I'll catch you the next time. I don't know if I should do an outro song or not. I've got the ukulele right here. Do you want? Oh, do you play the ukulele?
No, I do not play the ukulele.
You play the guitar, no?
No.
Okay, next time I have Callum as a guest, I'll put the piano next to you.
I don't play the bucket, whatever. Anyway.
You do play the keyboard. I've heard you play the keyboard. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Have a good life. Oh, wrong chord. Wrong note. That booze is really hitting in.